because it's just actually popped into my head called triggers. So I wanted to kind of talk about the times that I have triggers. Triggers are real. Triggers are not in your head. Triggers are there to kind of help you, in a sense, I think, to help you. So anyway, one thing that I do know, dealing with an ex that has kind of caused a lot of traumatic experiences. So dealing with an ex that has caused you a lot of traumatic experiences, and not just saying, oh, they hurt your feelings. That can be a traumatic experience too. You can actually build, your, tolerance of things. I know the merging of two people, sometimes you just don't have to take everything like personal and kind of go to God with it. But as far as what trauma is concerned, trauma to me is something that is intentionally done to hurt you. We do things, and I know I do things sometimes, and it may hurt somebody and it's unintentional, but when you know that there is intention behind someone hurting you, that's a whole different type of psyche. And so, based off of my conversations, when I was in the marriage and with my ex, he was unaware when he said, when we was having conversations and he was saying this about other people, I know how to hurt people and stuff. And I was just taking notes, and I just put it in the back of my mind, because if you know how to hurt people, you will know how to hurt me. So there are things that, I've experienced in my marriage that in my marriage after the divorce, during the divorce, that will bring up a lot of triggers in my life. And triggers will need to actually happen, I think, because you don't know what you're actually healed from until that thing comes up and you're able to not let it affect you. There were times when everything was fresh, that I would just get mad at the simplest thing, even though at that time I was like, no, I overlook stuff. And that don't bother me, but this bothered me. And now I'm at post 2 or 3 years later saying, oh, this used to bother me, but it doesn't bother me. It might be a level to triggers. It might be a level to things that agitate you. But then there are sensory things that I found too that can trigger something, like a smell, like something, like a car, like like something you eat. There are sensory things that can bring up memories. And that is something that is actually you cannot control. So even if you don't have conversations with your ex anymore to where they can trigger you, certain sensory things can also trigger you. Places that you go, and it's not like you're going to those places to be triggered. It's a part of your daily routine. Especially if you still live in the house, that all of this stuff happened. If you live in the neighborhood, you go to the restaurant, you still wear the same perfume. All of these things can cause you to actually have a moment and certain things, I was actually watching certain shows that showed scenes, and it's not I'm watching Lifetime and stuff like that, but it's just certain shows, they have scenes to where it gives me flashbacks. And so I'm actually, dealing with those, and I've been to counseling, go to therapy about, those flashbacks because they are real, and you see something and you freeze up and all of these thoughts running through your mind. But I believe that triggers are needed to show where you are in the healing process. And speaking of healing, you won't know you've healed from something until that same thing comes up again. And you can say, oh, I see that did not hurt me, or that thought did not hurt me like it used to. When that thought came in my past, I would cry, I would get upset, I would tense up, my body would tense up, my heart would start racing. Like, now I don't have those reactions. That means you are working on your healing. If, I see that person and I don't get, like I used to do, that lets you know that you are healing. But you actually have to do the work. What is the work? I believe it's different for everyone. Definitely kind of go and get a counselor or a therapist that you can work on activities. There are, I've tried some PTSD activities to where, in those moments you try doing things like counting down from 100 to, whatever, pausing in those moments to recognize like the colors in the room. Like, those are the things that they, show you. Even, my therapist and counselor was saying, in those moments, just pause and know that this is not happening. This is not real right now. I am in a moment just with my thoughts. Those types of activities can actually help you. What I've also found, as during my healing, kind of when I was healing, I didn't get involved in I wasn't quickly to get involved in a relationship. I know a lot of people want to, a lot of people need to, because that's the only way they can kind of get the other person out the mind, is to be busy with somebody else. And that may work, but I actually wanted to kind of do the healing. I've always wanted to do healing. I do not want to lash out on my next go round having all this unresolved, because that's what we're spewing on our next. And I just definitely did not want to do that. Did not want anybody in my intimate mental space until I kind of healed from that. Because what if like a person that I'm talking to does something and it triggers and I go off, and then that person like, you're crazy. Like, you don't want all of that stuff to happen, and you really want to actually do the work. So I just did not jump into a relationship, or that I've created boundaries for people in my life, created boundaries around my intimate space. Like, you're not going to kind of get past a certain area, and that is my boundaries, because I knew that I did not want to pursue any type of relationship, and maybe they wanted to. I've also, I've done a YouTube to where I had like a whole, and I still have my whole weekly thing of what I imparted into my soul. Just like journaling, oh my gosh, that helps so much. Journaling helps. Getting those devotions, reading those devotions. I got mine for, I have a women's devotional. I have a motherhood, single mom devotionals. All of that, that's kind of gutted a lot of stuff into me. Reading my Bible, and reading scripture on what the word says about what God thinks about me, what God thinks about my situation. Kind of getting that into my soul as well. Also doing, meditating. There are a lot of apps. My ones that I still have on my phone is the Calm app, and also the Abide app as well, that you do meditations, sleep with the word, sleep with the meditations going on. Those two meditations are awesome. I also take part in my health providers, like mental health apps. They have great ways on how to deal with anxiety, stress, worry, anger, fear, all of that. I also have like webinars that I sign up for and kind of get that, situated, divorce help, support groups, all of that. They help you with that. Some things actually confirm that, you weren't the crazy one in the, relationship, but also it kind of confirms like, where do you need to go from here? And if you were the crazy one, what can you do now to kind of gut that? So those things help with your healing. I had a daily routine. Every day I did something to restore my soul. Every day I had something to where I just like, I'm gonna do this today. This is Tuesday, I'm gonna do that. And so it kind of helped me along this journey. I was hard on it, reading books, even if it's an entertainment book or a self-help book, any type of book where you pause and you're actually reading the pages. That is good for your soul. That's good for your health, your mental health. So all of these things that will help you on your journey to healing, it helps. And so now, as you experience your everyday and you don't know what's going to trigger you don't know what you're going to encounter at the grocery store, where you see somebody that looks like that person or smells like that person, or all of that. Now that you have tools that you can use, that you are now imparting into your spirit, and you can kind of do those particular activities or calming techniques during those high anxiety times. And I promise you, they work. And I still, until this day, may get a little something I looked at the other day and I was like, ooh, it gave me a whole flashback. And my mind went into that moment. And I had to realize I was in that moment, that trance, and I had to get out of it because I'm like, I'm not there anymore. And so I still do that until this day. There was another day where, I was like, man, I would have went off in an email about this, but you know what? Knowing, that I know the pattern, of my ex, and I know how, this is simple in the big scope of things, even though it kind of made me mad. I was just like, you know what? I didn't, do this. I didn't do this. I'm not going to do this. I'm just going to leave it in God's hands. That is a learned skill. I promise you. I wasn't leaving it in God's hands a lot of times, but it is a learned skill that you're like, you know what? I'm going to leave this in God's hands. I know He sees that. He vindicate for me. I've seen Him vindicate for me. And so I'm just going to continue to do what I can do over here on this side, on my side. So hopefully that kind of helped you in regards to how, how triggers can help you, what you need to kind of do in those triggers, and how you can move forward and progress in your healing. I've had a lot of, or the therapists and counselors that I went to, they've commended me on where I said that I wanted to be, and why I'm not in a relationship right now, and why I wasn't in a relationship then, is because I wanted to make sure that my mental health state was okay enough for me to go into another relationship. And so these things help with your healing, and it can also help with the triggers. So I just wanted to kind of come on and just say that because it helps. We will have triggers. We will get through triggers. Triggers are needed to help you know where you are in your healing.